Okay, tech news. Let's start with AMD. AMD officially announced they will be launching 7 nanometer Navi GPUs in the third quarter later this year in 2019. So we're looking at a summer release window. From a price standpoint, they're claiming it will be below Radeon 7, which was released in early February after CES for $700. The 7 nanometer Navi products have long been expected to be the follow up to the Polaris cards of the last 3 years, including the RX 470, 480, 570, and 580, that were all in the $200 to $250 price range at launch, which have appealed to savvy, valued shoppers since then undercutting NVIDIA's offerings at the price of a smidge higher electric bill. Now, AMD failed to compete with NVIDIA at the high end with their $400 plus priced Vega 56 and 64 cards over the past 2 years, while currently the RX 570 is the best buy under $200 in new condition. There was also an earnings call. Now, an earnings call is when there's like an official like briefing to stockholders and people that would have people that would have an interest in analyzing the future prospects of a company. But it's mostly, I would say, for people that already own stock.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So AMD had an earnings call for the most recent quarter, and they grossed a 1.27 billion revenue with 16 million in profit, which that really doesn't. Now, I'm pretty sure when they say profit here, they mean after they've paid everybody, the company got 16 million. The thing is, when I see 1.2 billion, 1.27 billion in revenue, and then I see 16 million profit, that's like such a small profit compared to what that revenue is. But the thing is, AMD, they have very, very small margins compared to what Intel and NVIDIA get. They have very small margins. They're predicting another 1.52 billion for their second quarter of the year on the heels of the Navi and their 7 nanometer EPYC Rome processors to be released. The EPYC line is their highest end server processors that currently go up to 32 cores, costing thousands of dollars, but will jump up to 64 on 7 nanometer. Mainstream Zen CPUs range from 4 cores to 8 cores, or $100 to $300 plus. But with the best value being the 6-core, 12-thread X600 tier for under $200 as they are now. The X600. What I mean by that is the 1600 or the 2600, and there's probably going to be a 3600 when the Ryzen 3000 series out. The 1600 and the 2600, they've been getting discounted in price cuts because of the incoming Zen 2 that CPUs that are going to be coming out this year. I mean, I got to tell you, I saw just within the last couple months, like the CPU that I have, like Ryzen 1600, I've been seeing those going for like $120, and they come with a box cooler that isn't half bad. I paid over $200 for that like 2 years ago. That is like a really good deal. Just wipes anything out in that price range. So yeah, that tier, like the 1600 and 2600, that's the best bang for the buck. And then they do get price reductions and discounts, and they go even lower. So they're normally like 200 when they come out, but then eventually they drop in a good way. Okay, Zen 2.
We've actually been seeing quite a few AMD deals recently, due in part to their 50th anniversary. Figured it would be worth mentioning.
I think it I think it has less to do with the 50th anniversary and more to do with just
No, they've been bundling a lot of stuff. Like that's the 50th anniversary is all over the place. Like you can get World War Z and the Division 2 Gold Edition if you buy select cards and processors right now. Because
I don't know if this deal is still up. You could get an RX 580 with the Division 2 and World War Z and a 2600 with another copy. It's like you would get dual copies of both of the games.
Well, hey, so considering both of those games are multiplayer, I'd say that's actually really nice because then you can keep one copy of each and then give a copy of each to a friend, and then you can play those games together.
That is what I think some people are going to do, but I think a lot of other people are just going to sell all the game codes if they can.
Yeah, well, there are people that do that.
If I was more savvy with using eBay and selling stuff, e-commerce on a small scale, I would have taken that deal, especially if I didn't have a 570 already. Okay, Zen 2 is allegedly expecting a 15% IPC bump from the 2000 series and a 4.5 gigahertz clock speed. Probably the boost clock since the 2600X boosted to 4.2 gigahertz. So overclockers could be getting 4.5 gigahertz on Zen 2 on all cores under the right circumstances. AMD reiterated that the PS5 will be running on 7 nanometer Zen 2 and Navi power. So you gotta look at it like this. NVIDIA just they pretty much own the
console market.
No, I'm talking about NVIDIA.
Oh,
NVIDIA owns the PC discrete graphics card market. AMD owns the console market.
Yeah.
Everything that's powering Xbox, PlayStation, it's all AMD, probably going forward too, because these systems, they want to have backwards compatibility, and the easiest way to do that is to stick with the same companies that produce the previous.
Stick with similar architecture. Also, doesn't AMD have bigger market share for laptops as well?
Oh, I would not say that. AMD, I don't know this for a fact, but I just know that.
Well, I mean, I know that Intel and AMD started doing something together where it was a combined unit graphics processor and CPU, or it was an Intel CPU and AMD graphics combined in one, and it was made specifically for laptops, though.
I really would not. Just the way things have been for so long. See, mobile is all about power efficiency, and that's something that Intel and NVIDIA have. So if you were going to get a gaming laptop, straight up, it's going to have an NVIDIA graphics card. It's going to have that. And Intel, their processors, like I said, they have better IPC and they use less electricity. So when you talk about laptops, that's I don't really see AMD competing that well. AMD is competing really well on anything that's multi-threaded. It's like I said, these EPYC processors that have 32 cores, and now on 7 nanometer they're going to have 64. These processors, they go for thousands of dollars, $2, $3, $4.
They're server processors, so I can imagine. It's stuff like the Threadripper or the i9 Extreme editions and stuff like that for Intel.
No, the thing is, Threadripper.
Oh, those are
that's AMD too.
Yeah, Threadripper's AMD, but these are more. These aren't so much server processors I'm talking about, but they're like server power brought down to a PC level. Right? That's kind of how those chips were meant to kind of be. You have stupid amount of cores in them. Like I think Threadripper 2 has like 32 cores.
When I think of Threadripper, that's above like the mainstream, and then Epic is even like another step above that. And I know that Epic is for that's for servers, and then Threadripper is primarily designed for just
it's hardcore computing, like CAD work and 3D modeling, and basically CPU intensive work.
Or anything involving rendering, and you would probably want a NVMe SSD to not bottleneck your damn what your CPU's doing, because those things are fast. Let's see. Okay, so AMD is hanging in there, competing against Intel and Nvidia. Now, at this point, taking back market from Nvidia looks to be a tremendous uphill battle, which they have managed to do against Intel over the past 2 years. So they have a lot of work to do with competing with Nvidia. That goes without saying. Paying attention to anything I've been saying ever since I've been here. Okay. Now Intel news. Now, I kind of wrote this paragraph talking about something that's, now that I'm looking at it, it's so insignificant. Why did I write this much? This is like some OCD. Why did I write so much about this? Okay, so there's a rumor that Intel's 10th generation processors are going to have 5 digits denoting its generation and tier. So right now, you're looking at like, okay, you got like the 8400, the 9800. Those are 4 digits, right? Mm-hmm. Well, if they go to the next generation and they just add 1,000, I mean, if you go over 9800, you're going to have to add another digit, so it's going to be like 10,000. So there's a rumor, and it's more than a rumor. There have been 3D Mark benchmark scores leaked with mobile CPUs, like the i5 10210U. So I look at that number and it totally makes sense to me. But whoever wrote this article I was kind of reading about, they thought it was going to be like really confusing. It's not.
It's funny. Basically, I gave you that article just because I thought it was funny. Because it makes sense, because it's the same system that they've been using.
And and they're adding.
They're just adding an extra digit. It's like, why are you getting confused by this?
So, yeah, it's easier to say, okay, yeah, the 8400 and the 9800, and now start everything with, the 10,000 or the 11,210 or the 10,550. You're just going to start with saying like 10,000, 13,000. And the thing is, they could keep doing this for decades if they just hold on to this. It could be like the 34,000. I like this. They could just do this, like I said, for decades, for the rest of the century. They should just stick with this. They should just do this.
It's a good system, and it's very indicative of what you're getting. Like, what's the processor? It's the 44. It's the 4440K. Okay, so that's 4th gen. What about that? It's the 7700K. Oh, that's 7th gen. What's it's so easy to recognize what the processor is from Intel based off this,
1st gen of their lineup of i3s. Actually,
the I series.
The I series. Actually, they may not have had i3s at first. I think the 1st gen, it might have just been i5s and i7, and then when they had the 2nd gen, they introduced the i3. Yeah, the 1st gen only had 3 numbers. So I think there was like the i5 750 or something. But then when they got to the 2nd gen, they put a 2 in front of it. So then you had like the 2500K, and you just started to have like 2000 in front of that. And ever since then, they've just add 1,000 every generation on top
It
of
makes
that.
sense, and helps customers keep track of what they're buying, you know?
Yeah, there was another part in this.
Intel snagging ex-AMD and NVIDIA employees.
Oh, you know what? I didn't get into reading about that.
And there's not really much to talk about. That's pretty much the extent of it, what I
Yeah,
just said.
it's just yeah. Look, Intel is getting into the GPU market, and they are like
But
headhunting.
however,
That's what that is.
the thing is that they're focusing on data center. They're focusing on data center GPUs at the moment, and then they might move into PC GPUs.
Yeah, commercial like mainstream GPUs. Yeah, they're okay. Where was the guy? Why can't I spot this? Okay, let me just break down what Intel nomenclature means when you see a processor. Okay. With Intel making the jump from i3 to i5 to i7 means an increase in core and thread count. So an i3
They
is
kind of
always
fucked that up, by the way, with the ninth gen because from the first gen to like I think it was the first gen, but most recently, at least from the fourth gen up, because I have a fourth gen and I've been keeping track of it since then. The i7 series has always had so many. It has always been the top tier, like so many cores and then double the amount of cores and hyperthreads. And in this generation, the ninth generation, they kind of fucked that up because they introduced the i9 series. Now the i9 series is replacing the i7 series, and the i7 series seems to be replacing the i5 series, and it's going back because
let me
hold on a sec, because the i7 9th gen series has 8 cores and 8 threads. Meanwhile, the i9 9th series has 8 cores and 16 threads, which is what usually the i7 would have, but they changed it for some reason this generation. Go on.
Well, the way that I had seen it, what the pattern had been for a number of years, it's really the i7 it's an i5 with like
more threads,
hyper threading, double the threads. That's what an i7 is. It's just an i5 with hyper threading. But yeah, as you go from i3 to i5 to i7 or to i9, there's going to be more cores and more threads. That's what that means. Now, the 1,000 mark is the generation, what I've been talking about in this whole Intel topic. It's just adding another 1,000, the next generation. That's what the 1,000 mark is. The next 3 numbers are for differentiating superior specs like clock speeds. And finally, the suffix letter at the end reflects product line form factor or features. For instance, desktop processors that have a K on them from Intel, that means they're unlocked, so you can overclock them, which there isn't anything like that on AMD. It's just pretty much most AMD desktop processors are just overclockable now. They're just all unlocked.
Yeah.
Okay, so that pretty much covers this Intel topic. Let's go to Amazon. Amazon is currently cutting into the logistics and freight shipping industries dominated today by UPS and FedEx.
This is kind of a follow-up to last week.
I said AMD. I meant to say Amazon. Okay. Yeah, it's a follow-up. Amazon wants to turn this major cost of doing business into new revenue streams. Amazon's online trucking platform is undercutting the competition's average by 33%. This lowballing is a loss leader to provide services that are too good to be true for prices that are too good to be true, figuring out ways to monetize it later when it becomes essential or the default choice. I can't be too specific, but I have seen these Amazon trucks on the freeway already within the past year in Southern California. I have seen them, so this isn't totally new. Like this has been going on.
They've been
And
doing
this,
test markets and stuff like that, basically.
and usually test markets are big markets.
Yeah.
And SoCal, yeah, SoCal's a big market. High concentration of people around.
And this also goes hand in hand with what we were talking about last week about how they're going to be spending $800 million on infrastructure to meet their new target, which is going to be 1-day shipping for everybody. Free 1-day shipping as opposed to free 2-day shipping for everybody.
I just gotta say, if Amazon is undercutting competition by 33% in like freight shipping in those trucks, those 18 wheelers, whatever, like that's mad. I mean, they could, like I said, it could be like, it's just like a lawsuit. It doesn't matter. They can do that for years and years and years and like lose money on that until like they're dominant in it, and then they could just flip the switch.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden,
pretty much.
That's like that's how Walmart got big, you know? And I think yeah, it's like that's what Amazon, that's what they're going to do. Like whatever costs of doing business have been, they're just trying to like incorporate that under their wing in the company. Boy, antitrust the hell out of them.